Hey guys, I wanted to just pop on and do a really quick message. I'm talking to one of my girls, and she sent me a message that came from a guy she's been dating for a couple of months. He sent her an inappropriate meme that made her feel uncomfortable. And everything's going fine. They're having a great time. They're about 2 months in. Yet when this came up, it was like, how do I handle this? So she reached out to me and said, what do I do? Because her initial reaction was to say something like, hey, I don't like that kind of a message. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like that. She's like, it really kind of made her feel like, it's a lack of respect, right? It makes her feel like, I don't know why you feel like you can send something like that at this point, because up until now, you've never said something like that before. Now, he could have just been getting a little bit too comfortable with his sense of humor. He laughed at something online and forwarded it to her. So I think in instances like this, we have to choose how we want to communicate this, because sometimes if we get upset via text, those kinds of messages can come across in a way that you can't hear tone. So the one thing I would caution you is, if you are going to have your first disagreement or you're going to discuss something, I recommend you do it in person, because you're in front of each other and you can address it in a way where facial expression, tone, voice inflection, all those things are there, where they can see how it makes you feel, and it can be resolved much more quickly. If you send a text and say how you feel, then you can end up, I know I've done this, or I've ended up in a text argument with a guy that I don't really know well enough, and a lot of miscommunication can happen. So, but what I cautioned her on is that she was even afraid to respond, because she's like, well, if I tell him I was offended, then what if he thinks I'm ridiculous? And I said, well, so what if he thinks you're ridiculous? It's like, this is how it makes you feel. So if he thinks that you're ridiculous, then it makes his opinion more valuable than yours. And this is where I really want to encourage you to work on your own confidence, so that you're not afraid to say, yeah, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't really like that kind of a meme. And also think about, if you sent something that offended him, how would you want him to tell you? Might come out something like, hey, it was kind of funny, but not really my sense of humor, not really my style. Something like that. And then you could be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, no big deal. But just, next time I probably won't, I don't want to hear that stuff. And it gives the person the understanding that, look, I feel like that's disrespectful toward me. Or you could take it totally different. Be like, you didn't mean to disrespect me by sending that, right? Or because it kind of, I wasn't sure how to take it. You could say something like, I wasn't really sure how to take that message because I don't know you very well. So it was kind of, it kind of made me feel like, ooh, I wasn't quite sure what you meant by it. And then let him explain. But at least it gives him an opportunity to give his perspective before we rush to judgment and say something that accuses him of something that maybe he's not guilty of. I also want to point out that it's at this point in relationships where we can really risk our level of authenticity the second we choose fear over just being real. If I get afraid to say something, then I'm holding myself back. I'm not being myself. And then I'm sitting there calculating my responses. And that creates space between you that wasn't there before. And I really feel like this affects your ability to create a bond. You're much better off taking a risk at a conflict versus staying safe, saying nothing, and sitting in fear. We've done this with Gumball Guys. We've been afraid. We stop saying things. We hold our opinion back. We just kind of take that tasteless joke or something that's really offensive or gross. Sometimes guys think they can just share really gross stuff with us, but you might be the kind of girl that's okay with that. So I don't want to tell you what's okay for you. You know what's okay for you. I just don't want you to be afraid to speak up and say what's on your mind. Because the moment you are afraid is the moment you stop being yourself. And that's why I created the Back to You program, because this academy is about getting that back. And so all of these decisions that happen just like this is the reason we lose ourselves. Right there. It's like the moment you decide, maybe I shouldn't say anything. If you're saying it because you're not saying something because you're worried he's going to reject you, or you're worried what he's going to say, or what if he thinks I'm stupid? It's like, well, he might. I mean, he could get offended by something and you would be like, why would he be offended by that? It may not make sense to you either, but it doesn't make him or his opinion invalid, right? I mean, you would be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I totally don't mean to offend you at all. And then you'd probably think about it like, okay, I guess, yeah, I could see why that would be offensive. Like, if you're a good person and you're introspective and you care, then you're going to be conscientious and respectful of that person, and you're going to know what offends them, right? I mean, this is just what we do for people that we care about. And so I have seen husbands that have said things and be like, oh, I'd never say that around my wife. She would freak out. Haven't you heard guys say that? Like, don't tell my wife I said that, because he knows what her boundary is. And even if he prefers to speak that way, he doesn't out of respect for her. And so I want you to be confident to stand up and say, yeah, I don't really find that funny. I'm sorry, but it's just gross to me. And it doesn't mean we have to make them feel like horrible humans for saying something off color or just slightly inappropriate, or maybe it's too sexual too soon. You can say, yeah, that's a little much for me. And you can just move past it. Just let them know, hey, I'm putting up a boundary. And then what I instructed her to do is say, look, you handle it and you stay yourself, but then keep observing and see what happens. But the number one thing you should always be having is fun. And I'm going to keep telling you this. Really, 99% of it should be fun. Once in a while, people are going to do stuff we don't like. Everybody will do it. You'll do it. He'll do it, whatever. And what I was also going to say in my notes here is that when you have conflict, sometimes it is an argument where it's like, well, I didn't mean that to be offensive. Well, it was offensive. Like, however it comes out, it gives you an opportunity to get closer because you're able to resolve the conflict and you're able to communicate these things effectively. This is how you figure out how to communicate. But if you hide your feelings, then you become not authentic. All of a sudden you're like, I'm going to choose not to be real. I'm going to choose to be fake. I'm going to pretend like this doesn't bother me. And then I'm going to sit there. And we all know what it looks like when someone is sitting across from us and we know something's wrong. And you're like, is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, I'm fine. But you know something's wrong. When they choose not to say it, it becomes awkward. And you're like, well, I don't know what's wrong, but now everything feels awkward. And so then immediately it puts a strain on your relationship. So you're better off risking conflict, because all healthy relationships have conflict. Every couple fights. They don't fight dirty. They don't call each other names. This is one thing I really noticed. There's not a lot of criticism. Even the Gottman Institute that has studied this extensively, couples that are healthy, they will have conflicts, but they're not putting each other down. So there are ways to handle these things and I would really recommend that you look at the Gottman Institute and look at books about marriage and how to have healthy marriages and how to resolve conflict. It's amazing. Those resources are so helpful because it really shows you the kind of communication we should be having and working toward in a relationship. Forget the dating advice. Look at what makes a successful couple, and then all you have to do is reverse engineer it. Really talk to couples and understand. But as you've heard on this podcast, as we interview couples, as we weave them through the thread of this podcast, you can see that they are being who they really are, to be free. So, I always love to say, you need to be free to move about the cabin. When you're on an airplane and you have to have your seatbelt on, you're restricted, right? Can't go to the bathroom. There's the part where you can't use your computer. So you feel you can't be yourself, right? You have to wait because there are restrictions, there are rules. But as soon as the captain says, I've turned off the seatbelt sign, you can use your portable electronic devices and you can get up to go to the bathroom, you're like, everything just feels relaxed. And that's what you want to feel in your relationship. You don't want to feel like, I can't say this or can't do that, because really, you're not in a real relationship if there's a bunch of restrictions, because it also gives him a lot of control. And he may not even be demanding it, but by your fear of being yourself, you're allowing him to have dominance over you, because it may be what you're used to in the past. In the past, historically, you've known if I say something and I offend him, then he gets all pissy, and then I feel like I can't bring it up again. Because a lot of gumball guys, man, you say your opinion, you don't like, well, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I can't even believe, I just can't handle it if I have to be in a relationship where I can't say things like that. And then all that romance that you had and all the happy times you had together, when they say things like that, then you have to make a decision of, well, what do I say to that? If the gumball guy says, well, I just can't deal with a girl that puts those kinds of restrictions on me, and I can't even, that's just my sense of humor, then that might be him being authentic too. And you could say, well, if that's the way you have to be, that's really offensive to me. So I don't think I could deal with that. I mean, you have to say what you feel too. Just because he says, well, I can't. So, because you hear what I'm saying? Like, if he says it one way, then it means, okay, so I have to live by your rules and regulations. That comment means there's no compromise. So it doesn't mean you can never say jokes, but a lot of times when people are immature and they don't know how to resolve conflict, and they don't go, okay, yeah, that was a little, they can't just say, yeah, that one was a little extreme. And then you can say, I don't mind things here or there, but that one kind of pushed it and kind of made me feel yucky. Or, in her case, she could say, I mean, I have a sense of humor. I just don't know you very well. And so I'm just trying to figure out what you meant by it. And I'm trying not to be offended. And just saying exactly what's happening. But if he's like, well, if I just can't have free reign and say whatever I want, then I just don't know if I can be in this relationship. Then what he's saying is, yeah, I need to be exactly how I want to be and be careless about your opinion, because I can't worry about what offends you. I just need to be myself and say whatever I want, whenever I want. And if that's what he wants, then he should go find somebody that can deal with that. But if that's not you, it's not you. Do you hear me? Like, you don't have to, it's not like, okay, well, I guess if you're just going to be offensive, then I'm just going to have to deal with it. No, you can speak up. And then this is what dating means. It's like, okay, well, I guess if that's, it would be like, imagine if somebody was like, well, I just make racist comments. If you can't deal with my racist comments, then I just can't be with somebody who's sensitive to that. I'd be like, well, then I got to go. I mean, I couldn't be with somebody who made racist comments. That would be a relationship ending comment to me. Like, if you feel like you have to say racist things, then I will say goodbye right there, because that's a non-negotiable. So when you take it to that extreme, that's where you can say, yeah, that's not going to work for me at all. And sometimes you do just have to walk away, because you realize, dang, I really like this guy. He was a lot of fun. But as I get to know him better and he's getting more comfortable, now I'm starting to see who he really is. And he's letting his guard down, and he's showing some really ugly sides that are showing character. And that's the final point. Are these things just slip-ups, or is it revealing character? Is it revealing a lack of self-respect? Because if I say something racist, it means I don't respect myself. Because, like, when people always think, well, that's disrespectful. Yes, it is disrespectful, but we should respect ourselves enough to not even want to be that kind of a person. So if someone can be ugly or just flat out rude, and disrespectful, then that's an indication that, if I were looking at that, I would think you're not going to fit into my life because I operate in a way where I'm around all different kinds of people, and I don't want to be with somebody that I can't trust what's going to come out of their mouth. I need to be able to feel comfortable with them, and I don't want to worry that they're going to say something that's going to hurt somebody else because they can't gauge what's offensive and what's not. And, there's some people just can't do it. And so I don't want to get too far off in these tangents because I just want you to know, like, when you get to these points, you cannot hold yourself back. It doesn't mean you have to go and be super dramatic unless you are a really dramatic person. And if some guy's like, I just can't handle all the drama, and you just are dramatic and that's just how you are and it's how you express yourself, then you can't stop being you. Okay? This is what happens. And I really, really strongly want you to consider, I wish every single one of you could go through the Back to You Academy, because I want you to really go through that journey of discovering who you are, discovering what makes you who you are at your core. All of the decisions, from how you take your coffee to your religion views, your political views, and we don't go into that into the academy, but I want you to be thinking of it. So when you're sitting in front of somebody, you know what your non-negotiables are. You know where you stand on things. You know if you're going to say, yeah, I do like fish, or I don't like fish, or I love the color red, or I hate the color red. I want you to know who you are when you show up, so that when it comes time to make those kinds of decisions, to speak up for yourself, you're going to be able to do so from a calm place. You won't have to say, oh my gosh, that's so offensive. I can't believe you would say that. Like, you're going to be like, yeah, that's not really my style. I'm sorry. I don't find that funny, and I don't want to make you feel weird, but that's probably not something that, I would want you to send to me. And however it would sound, that's probably how I would say it. I'd be like, yeah, not really my cup of tea. Maybe that's something you could send to your friends, or I don't know. Like, it really just depends on the setting. But again, I want you to always address it in person if you can, because we do so much via text, so much even over the phone. And when our feelings are hurt, when you're sitting there on the phone, a lot of times people don't know how to address you because they can't see you. And if you're texting, they don't know how it's really coming across. And if you care about this person and you feel like you could just get through it with a conversation, then maybe do it when you're in person. That way everybody understands the page that you're on, and that you can get through it and come out on the other side closer, stronger, and really strengthen your bond. So I hope this helps you in just those beginning relationship fears. You cannot, there's the Bible verse, perfect love casts out all fear. When you have true love, you will not be afraid. So when you feel afraid, it doesn't mean you don't have real love. It just means that you're probably accessing some of those old patterns, those old beliefs. And I want you to stop yourself and say, it's okay. I can say what I need to say. If I disagree, I can disagree. And if that guy, I told this girl I was messaging, we can't date guys that scare easily. If you make one text comment, or you get offended, or you get upset about something, if that scares him away permanently, it's worth doing just to see what scares him away. It's like, if that scares him away, he would never last long-term anyway. So we need to be with people that are, they're scrappy. You need scrappy friends that are tough, that can handle things, because if they're that sensitive, then you can never be yourself. You're going to walk on eggshells with them forever, and it just doesn't work long term. So I want you to think of it that way. Like, if you don't say anything and you choose to walk on eggshells, then you're going to be in a relationship that has way too many hindrances. So it's better to just take the risk. He might be like, I can't believe you would say that, and he might bail. That is a chance you will take, but better now than later. because when we're careful and we tiptoe around him and we baby him and we coddle him and we don't say this and we don't say that, we eventually don't end up with that guy anyway. So if we just stay true to who we are and we decide to let go of the fear, or we push through the fear, this makes me uncomfortable, and you could even say those things. Like, I love Kyle Cease, the comedian and personal development coach. He's like, sometimes if you just say, that message kind of offended me, and I'm a little bit afraid to tell you because I don't want you to think that I'm crazy, but I just don't really like it. I would prefer we don't send messages like that. I like funny stuff. I don't want you to not send funny things to me, but that one was like, it just kind of made me feel a little bleh. If we just say exactly what it is, and that's pretty much how she said it made her feel, then he can be like, oh my gosh, I didn't want you to feel like that at all. Sorry, that was a little bit, maybe I should have sent that to one of my guy friends. Like, sorry, I won't do that again. But and then you can say, but please make sure to send me other funny things because I don't want it to make us weird. You know what I mean? Like, then when you're so forward and straight up, it's just liberating. Because even like earlier in the podcast makes me want to go and edit it, but I'm not going to. Like, you could hear me trying to work through like, how would I have said that, or what would I have said? But when I think of Kyle Cease, I just think of, say the thing, say it exactly how you would say it to your friend. Like, I don't want it to be weird because I really like you. This will be my final rendition. I would say, I really like you, and I know you have an amazing sense of humor. That post is probably, maybe I just don't know you well enough, but it kind of is making me feel a little bit weird. And, so I don't want to make it weird between us. So I do feel like a little bit afraid to say something because I don't want it to be weird, but that one is kind of making me feel a little bit blah. And then whatever he says is whatever he says, but you've said your part. And I will tell you what my therapist would tell me over and over and over again. Your job is to be you and do your part. Your job is not to do his, which sounds like #duh, but sometimes we try to run across to the other side of the table and be like, well, I can understand why you would think that. And I know that, no, don't speak for him. Don't try to pretend like you're him. Just do your thing, say what you feel, and then listen to what he says. Let him be his own person. Don't instruct him how he's supposed to be. You just say how it made you feel. You don't have to tell him what to say to you. You just say what you feel to him and let the chips fall where they may. But the bottom line is we have to be ourselves. Otherwise, we're in a prison. The second you are not yourself, it's like you lock yourself in a prison and you throw away the key and you can't get out or you hand the keys to the other person and they decide when you're free and when you're not. This way, you stay in control of your own freedom. And if at some point you realize, and this is where the most empowering part of this will be, you may come to the realization, yeah, this isn't something I really want to deal with. And I can't tell you, I remember when I first moved to New York, I was dating this guy for a while, and he was very cold and insensitive, and I could tell he didn't really mean to be that way, but I could just see that that's how he was going to be. And he had been married before, and he kind of told me how his ex-wife and he had separated, and I started to see the pattern. And after a period of time, I just said, I really just don't feel like this is going to work, and I'm sorry, but, I just don't think we should see each other anymore. And he was like, what? Oh my gosh. I was looking forward to spending the summer together, and we were going to go to Central Park, and I wanted to have picnics with you. And I was just like, yeah, but you're insensitive. You're not hearing me. I mean, he would just do things where I knew this is not how I want to be treated in a relationship. And so it doesn't have to be a gumball guy. It doesn't have to be really dramatic. It can just be where you're like, I don't want to spend my life with somebody who can't hear me, who can't see me, who's emotionally available, unavailable. And he wasn't a gumball guy, but I had the strength enough to say, this isn't working for me, and I'm going to walk away. And it was very empowering because it wasn't dramatic and it wasn't a big deal. And he was like, okay, he felt sad, and And he was like, what can I do? And I remember I said to him, honestly, do you think that you're going to change the way you are? And he said, probably not. And I'm like, exactly. I said, I don't want to change who you are. I just know that this is not going to be what I need long term. So that's where being yourself all the way through can keep you strong until, unfortunately, sometimes it comes to an end. However, you stay in your authentic life. And this really helps you not be fearful of losing yourself. I talk to so many clients that say, Melissa, I want to date, but I'm afraid. I'm going to lose myself again. I stop working out. I start eating crappy. I start losing sleep. I focus all on him. All those things happen because we get fearful that we're going to lose him if we don't do everything that he wants us to do when he wants us to do it. And that's how it chips away. So we have to manage that fear and really pay attention to when it creeps in and then handle it, nip it in the bud right away so that you stay true to yourself all the way through. Thank you so much. I want to remind you the Back to You Academy is launching. It is going live this week. It is May 6th. May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, Sunday night, 8 o'clock. We kick off our first class. You will get the content online. So there's tons of audios. I believe there's 25 audios and video inside the academy. So let's just say you sign up on the 5th. Right away, you're going to get a login and a password. You're going to get access to the full academy. Basically, the academy is what I would put in a book. And I will eventually be putting this book together. And I've talked to you guys about this, where the people inside the academy right now, I'm going to start working with to become case studies that will be inside the book. So if you want your story to be featured, now is the time to join the academy, because I really want to understand your journey so that your journey can help other women. And what I'm doing to really give back to the women that are becoming members and sticking with this and going through this whole process is I'm offering a membership for only $47 a month after the academy. So you pay for the academy. And then if you're like, you know what, after a month, I have all this content, but there's no way I could change my whole life in 30 days. I wish I could, but you get a lot accomplished in 30 days. It's a power-packed 30 days. This month of May is going to be very much focused on fitness and health and nutrition to really get back to you, get your sleep, your vitamins, your daily habits, to really try to focus on, okay, I'm going to get back to me. I'm going to get things on track, and I'm going to offer some resources, including my own private chef that comes in and preps for me every single week. And she makes me green juices. We talk about how to supplement. I eat a vegetarian diet, so how to supplement protein if you're a vegetarian, or if you're a vegan, or if you're a meat eater. She can talk to you about all those things. So she will be a special guest inside the academy this month of May, along with another surprise special guest. And it's all going to be centered around health, nutrition, lifestyle, everything you need to get back maybe what you feel like you lost from being consumed by a relationship. Even if a relationship is consuming you right now, I want you to remember that if you supplement your life with, if you start, it's kind of like, think of it if you were eating a bunch of junk food. But think when you start eating junk food, but then you start going to the gym, if you're eating junk food, but you also start taking vitamins, you kind of start to lose the appetite for the junk a little bit, because you start adding support into your life instead of just depleting. So even if you're still depleting and you're adding support in, you're still going to be so much better off. So I'm going to teach you how to slowly kind of change that so that you can, I almost feel like I'm putting support boards under your feet as you're standing there so that you can start to feel more strong, and adding the community of women. Inside the private Facebook group, you guys are chatting together, sharing successes, sharing fears, sharing struggles. Everybody's been there or they're going through it. And it's such an amazing thing to add to your life, because now you have community. And it's just like I have community around getting up at 5 a.m. If you notice, Gumball Love went to a new level when I started getting up at 5 a.m. But what did I do to make sure of that? I signed up with a community of women that are like-minded. So getting up at 5 a.m. with my girls, they don't think it's weird because they all have their own goals. And so I created a support and a community around that. And I need resources like the resource that I use to launch the academy. It's called Kajabi, and putting all of the video and the audio programs on that and getting logins and passwords and creating all the systems that were needed. I found all those things through the community that supports me. So I don't have to be a one-woman show, that I have people I can go to and lean on. And so this is exactly what that's like for you when you're trying to get over a relationship, get through a divorce, get over a huge hard time in your life. Maybe you've had a bad relationship, but you've lost a job or you've gone through something traumatic and you just need to heal and you need a community that supports you and understands you. I can't express to you enough the value of this, that you should not be doing this stuff by yourself. You want to always make sure that you're getting help. And this is really just you're adding a coach to your life. I become your coach. One person was like, Melissa, where are you on Facebook? And I'm still doing stories, but where am I? I'm focused on my girls in the academy. So if you want intense attention, you want focused advice, you want more access to me, you want to be able to message me questions, join the academy, because that's where my primary focus is on the girls that are really investing into being like, okay, I'm not going to have a bad relationship again. And in order for me to be strong, in order for me to be strong, in order for me to avoid another bad relationship, I have to get confident and strong myself. And I can't expect to stay in a weakened state, go on Match.com, meet another guy. How are you going to do it? It's really tough because when we do that, we're like a wounded bird. And we're hoping that we don't get preyed upon by that predator just waiting to take advantage of our weakness. And so I want you to build up some strength so that you're ready and you're able to see those predators where you're looking back at them going, yeah, I see you, and no, thank you, instead of being susceptible because you're wounded. And sometimes it doesn't take that long to just get yourself back on your feet. You'd be surprised what you can accomplish. And if you have major trauma that you're getting through, or you've had abuse in your past and things like that, look, we'll get together because I do a one-on-one with you through this academy. And then if you become a member, I am offering my one-on-ones for free once a month to members. I know it's a steal. All the coaches are like, what are you doing? But I am following these stories and I'm putting this together, and I want to show people in many different ways. There's so many different types of women in so many different situations, and I'm really trying to capture what that looks like so that people reading this upcoming book, when it comes out, don't ask me when because it's going to be a long process, but I want people to be able to relate. And so I'm really studying the stories. So I want to spend this time with you. I am obsessed with your transformation. And so this process is always about shortening that time frame. I want to give you this information and have you able to make a transformation as fast as possible. And so the more time I spend with you, the more time I understand, the faster I can speed that up and the more clearer I can deliver the content. So it's a great time to join. It's a great time to participate in this. And this Academy is always going to be evolving and changing. We're going to be adding new content all the time. There'll be new guest speakers every single month. So you'll always have something to look forward to. We'll always have a theme each month and just new things for you to tackle. So I hope that I see you. Go to gumballlove.com, click on Academy. You can see all the information there and the different packages that are available. So I hope to see you on the other side. And until then, I'll talk to you soon.